pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amy, would you want to take roll, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Diphdahl?
Here.
Commissioner Cronin? Here. Commissioner Wire?
Here.
Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
And Mr. Mayor Lindsay?
Here, you have before you the agenda for this evening.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You have before you the consent calendar. Anything anyone wants to discuss? If not, do we have a motion?
I do have a question.
Okay.
I see that Madison Hospitality Group is listed twice under the liquor license. Do they have to? Or
You don't know that one?
is that?
Is one, beer and wine and the other alcohol?
I think this list does cover both, so if they have a malt beverage license as well as a liquor license, they probably pair on both. But I thought liquor license, they cover that too.
I do know that they require separate licenses for each. I don't
Each
know.
entity.
Yeah,
Sure.
I don't know
Each
if
entity.
that's the reason or not, but I can look into that.
Yeah, I was just curious. It's the only one that's listed twice there, so.
Yeah, the difference might be the address and that they're putting the license out. Because you can only have one address per license.
Sure.
Huh? So that's something Amy will check in on and get back to you. Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Unfinished business, approve second reading of ordinance 1672, 2025 appropriation. Jameson or Amy, one of you want to address that?
Mr. Mayor, this is the second reading for our budget ordinance, looking ahead to next year. Minimal changes from the first reading, so this would be the final approval for the budget. That will be in effect starting in January. Anything to add, Amy?
No.
Pretty straightforward. Any questions?
No questions? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 1672/2025 appropriations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 9, approve first reading of ordinance number 1674, amend appendix B, zoning section 1702. Ryan, would you want to address that first?
Sure. Yes, that works.
So this is a rezone that would rezone 2 properties in town. They would go from heavy manufacturing to highway business. Those are lots 11 through 17, block 8, Hankins second edition. The addresses on those properties are 120 South Highland Avenue, which is top of the T, and 1020 Southwest First Street, which was formerly used as kind of an equipment storage for a contractor. The co-applicants who own those properties want to rezone those in order to further their plans. Top of the T is more appropriate as a highway business zone. And then the planned use for 1020 Southwest First Street is storage units, and those could be applied for via conditional use in that zone. The proposed zoning for that highway business on those properties, we feel is appropriate because it's adjacent to the bypass corridor. The properties to the northeast and west are shown in our comprehensive land use plan as mixed use, commercial use, and the existing zoning to the west is highway business. So this seems like an appropriate use of those properties. We also feel that having a highway business zone next to an R60 residential zone, which is to the north and to the east, is more appropriate than it would be heavy manufacturing. So the planning commission unanimously recommended approval of this zoning change, city commission, and staff does as well.
And Mr. Pickard is in the room, and that owner of one of the properties, if anyone has any questions. I will say that I attended both meetings and met before the planning commission came to. This was what the planning commission recommended, was rezoning first, to get, the conditional unit, use permit to more fit the zoning of the property. No question? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve first reading of ordinance 1674, amend appendix B, zoning section 17.02.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for being here. Discussion on the fiscal year 2022 financial audit findings. Jameson, Amy?
I'll take it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the last meeting, we had shared in the finance updates that our 2022 audit had been completed. And at that time, we were getting things scheduled quickly to move into 2023 audit. So the plan is to have that started in mid-December and work through that as quickly as we can. We're doing what we can to catch up on these audits. So today we wanted to take a breath and go through the audit findings in more detail to answer any questions that you may have or any questions the public may have. We know that there's a number of things in here that don't reflect positively. There are areas that we need to improve on, and we've already taken steps to start addressing many of those areas. This isn't always an easy conversation for us to have, to admit that we've kind of fallen short in some areas, but we have new core values, and this probably lines up with several of them, but I think most particularly is accountability, and we want to make sure that we're accountable to ourselves and to the public. And so that's why we get this on the agenda tonight. I'll start by reiterating some of the reasons why we're now just approving the 2022 audit, when most cities are working on the 2023 audit. We had a few different things that were occurring in 23 that led it to being delayed. One was the conversion to Tyler Technologies. That's the new accounting and finance software that we have implemented in the city. And when we had the audit originally scheduled, we moved into it and we found that some of the numbers hadn't come over correctly from the old system to the new system. So before we could really get started with that, we had to make sure that the new system is reflecting the audit numbers or the financials correctly for the auditors to look at. So at that point, we were looking at, we had to fix the problems, which we did in that system to make sure the numbers are correct. And then we had to get on the auditor's schedules to restart that audit. And we fell into a difficult time for scheduling audits with our auditing company, Chainfish. It was getting to their tax season and there wasn't a good opening. So that pushed us into after tax season, May of this year is when we got started. And at that point, we had some new finance officers and transitions in the finance office, which led to some delays. We had some staff looking for documents and trying to get all the questions answered that the auditors have. So if I summarize the reasons why our 22 audit is so late, it's because of the Tyler conversion, scheduling difficulties with the auditing firm, and then also transitions within our finance office. Any questions on why we're just talking about 22 now? Again, I'll reiterate that we want to move as quickly as we can into 23, and once that's wrapped up, we'll be moving on to 24 as well, because we'll be in 25 at that point.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah,
I guess,
please.
when are these audits supposed to be completed by?
Yeah, according to codified law, we have 18 months to complete it. So the deadline for the 22 audit would have been the end of June here in 24. So we are past that deadline. It is something that happens in cities. And when that happens, there's a process that takes place where we work with the Department of Legislative Audit. They notify the public through our media. And then once we get it complete, we notify them and we conclude it. So we didn't make that deadline of 18 months after. We want to make sure we meet that with the 23 audit.
So does it hurt any of our ratings or anything like that, Jameson?
We did have some bond rating companies reach out looking for those 22 financials. And if we would not have gotten it done at this point, that it certainly could have hurt our bonding. But we got it to them by the deadline, which was mid-October, I want to say.
Correct.
We made that just in time for them.
I will say there are several other cities in the same situation due to just scheduling with, the firms and COVID and lots of pushback and delays, so it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we're in this situation, and we're sad to say that other cities are as well, but maybe that offers a little bit of solace to know that we're not alone either. Amy had provided an Excel spreadsheet. We didn't have it ready on Friday when the packet was initially published, but if you go on there, it is there now. So if you go onto our agenda system on our website, this document is publicly available on there. And so that's gonna be the rest of our discussion here, is walking through the summary document we provide, which is in direct response to the audit findings and the big audit. And then the staff memo, of course, on there also provides the link to the audit, which is on our website. That's an easy way of finding that audit link. So there were 3 audit findings that they're number 2022-001, 002. I'm just gonna refer to them as 1, 2, and 3. And number 1 has a few different things associated with it. And this is a lot of it's tied to federal awards. So in 2022 was the first year that we were required to have additional I guess higher level of audit requirements, because anybody who receives over $750,000 in federal funds has to be meeting higher standards. And so this was kind of some of this stuff was new for us as a city. Of those 3 areas, the first one was improper records retention practices. The second was an absence of documented policies and procedures, and then the third was a lack of a procurement policy. With the first 2, I would say, are related to record retention. There were some documents that we were not able to locate to provide to the auditors, which is certainly a failing on our part. We know that they existed at least at one point, because some were tied to reimbursements for federal funding, which we received, and they wouldn't have issued without those documents. But when it came to time to produce the documents, we were falling short there, and we weren't able to locate them. We can, chalk that up to transitions and having new staff come through, but ultimately, that's still a failure on our part. We want to make sure that we have the correct crossover training amongst our staff, and as well as transition orientation, to make sure that as new staff come in, we can still produce any documents that we're required to produce. The third one was the lack of a procurement policy. We haven't had a formal procurement policy. This only became an issue this year because of those federal funding requirements. So that's just a new requirement that is on us now, and we've been working on. So within the audit document, there's planned corrective action plans. I want to emphasize that those corrective action plans were things that were created by us as the city and given back to the auditors to be included within the audit report. Those aren't things created by the auditors, those are from us. And so this document on the middle column there walks through what that corrective action plan is that comes right from that audit report. And then on the right, you see the status there, and we've color coded to things that are already completed, things that we're working on, and things that still need to be started and completed. So in this case, we feel that we've completed the requirements for fixing this first audit finding. We have created and adopted, after some review, the record retention policy. The procurement policy is also drafted and will be adopted once we get a final review. And then we're annually reviewing processes to make sure that we're keeping up to date on what those policies need to be. Pause there to see if there's any questions on the first audit finding.
This will be published, or what's with this document?
This Excel spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yep, it is on our website in the agenda packet. So if you go to tonight's agenda, agenda item number, what do we have, 10? This is attached.
I also provided a copy for this.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I've got an extra copy if anybody else wants.
I do too.
Do we utilize a specific software for record retention, or?
We say no.
Sort of. We use Tyler Technologies. We are able to scan in a lot of our documents that way. Simple things, titles, job files, those type of things should be used through the software. So that's stuff we've implemented now that we are using.
Previous this audit, no,
Sure.
we didn't have any, I mean, that's why this all was so
Right.
such a mess, was because we were making that transition over, and it threw a wrench into everything. But that's why it took us like 7 years to get this software in place. It took us forever.
Yeah, and one thing that I did learn today, that there's a difference in governmental document procedures versus municipality. And so when you look at government, it's this that And I learned today in municipality and retention policy, and the things we're supposed to keep is about 242 pages long of a document. So I dove down that quite a bit today, just getting us in line to where we need to be. I think we're in a very good place. We've created job files for all the jobs going on now in the city, which will contain everything from our funding sources to the contractors to change orders. And that's really what we need in place when auditors come in. They'll be able to pull a job and look exactly what we're doing, where it's coming from, and that we're following all the.
And all departments are addressed in that, copy in that she was printing off today. And that, I sent a one pager and that, and I couldn't figure out why it was taking so long, and my computer said it wasn't ready, and I went up and she was printing off that new book. So, a lot of bedtime reading. Thank you, Amy.
All right, I'll move on to finding number 2. And to summarize these, they have A through P, and these are essentially accounting errors or mistakes that were made. Some things are things we were unaware of, and some things we just didn't have the knowledge at that time, and now we do. And that's what audits are for, right? I won't go through A through P individually because that is quite lengthy, but I'm happy to answer any in particular, and then I'll try to summarize here. So many of these, we simply had to make adjusting entries and to correct those. So you'll see A and B, I, J, K, L, and M have all been adjusted and changed, those corrections were made. And then N and O are identified and we're currently correcting those. So that takes care of quite a few of them right there. C is related to the payments made on our electric revenue bonds. So the bank that we have the debt through made a mistake in the invoice that they sent us, where the invoice was only billing for interest and didn't have anything on the principal. So we were paying the invoice correctly as far as billed, but we didn't catch that they weren't putting the principal on there. So that just meant that we were putting all our money towards the interest, not the principal. And this was identified before the audit findings came out and Amy had corrected earlier this year. D and E are things we're still in the progress of, and that's reconciling taxes receivable and special assessments with the county. F, we haven't started yet, but that's adjusting the statements to reflect inventory. So in 2022, our finance officer at the time told departments that we didn't need to adjust for the inventory at the end. That was just what we thought at the time, and that was incorrect. And so now staff are aware that we will continue to adjust for the inventory, and so that change has been made, and training will occur to make sure that is corrected in the future.
So did we do inventory prior to 2022 then?
Yeah, we did.
Okay,
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, this is the first time that audit finding has been on here.
sure.
I think maybe she had some conceptions that the Tyler software would take that piece and pivot it for her, and it just didn't take on that piece of it, so it left a gap there.
Sure.
G is tied to matching our reports up and making sure we have reconciliation process, because we're in the process of doing that. H, capital assets and depreciation. Tyler has a module that we own, but we haven't dove into yet, and that module will make the depreciation very easy for us. And so Amy will be scheduling training with staff in 2025 to begin utilizing that module. So I'll take care of H. Is that all of them? I think that was all of them. Any questions on finding number 2? Okay, and then finding number 3. This is something that is a common error by cities that we've heard in other parts of the state. Essentially, we have our budget, which we just passed the second reading today. And next year, when we get into that budget, if there's any funds that look like they're gonna be over as far as expenses beyond what's appropriated, we need to make either a contingency transfer or a supplemental appropriation before that expense is made. And in 2022, we were making that change, but we were making it after that expense was already made. So this is something that Amy said when she went to was it elected official school or finance officer school?
Finance officer.
Finance officer school, Rob with DLA really emphasized with cities, I think he does that every year, that you can't wait till the end of the year to make those contingency transfers or supplemental appropriations. You have to do it before that expense, which pushes you over the limit that you put in your original appropriations ordinance. And so that's information that now we are keenly aware of, and we will make sure, and that has been, we did make that contingency transfer, just not on time. So we will be sure to do that in the correct timely manner in the future. So that summarizes the findings from the audit. I want, the commission and the public to know that we take it very seriously. And I hope that that's shown by how quickly we've been going through this and making the corrections and the changes that we need to make. And we feel confident that once we get to the 23 audit, much of this will be cleaned up. Some of it might be lingering because 23 is already behind us. But as we move forward, that these things are things that will be corrected and improved upon, and we will be able to get back to audits with no significant negative findings. Any questions?
And the other thing I'll add to it, and that is no financial improprieties were discovered at all.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Everything that was done was basically paperwork issues. Other questions, comments?
I have a question. So like, let's say when the derecho hit and we went way over budget because it was a natural disaster. So do we have to put that money forward how does that work?
The way I understand, and that from what they're saying, and Amy and Jameson can correct me, is before we expend anything on an emergency like that or a flood like that, we need to anticipate what the dollars are gonna cost us and transfer it before we spend them. Did I say that correctly?
Correct. So the commission, before the commission approves the expenditure, we would do the transfer first.
Yeah.
Right, so to answer what you're looking at, 'cause I know you're thinking next emergency we don't want to be tied up with paperwork. So we would just make sure that before the hearing, we have our financials on items 2 and 3 under consent, bills for approval, bills for ratification. Before we approve those, we would pass a contingency transfer or supplemental appropriations to handle that. To answer your question, Mike.
Yeah, I just like, cause that was.
Yeah, it's a great question.
astronomical
Yeah.
amount, and
Yeah.
you're like, where do you start? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we didn't have any idea what it was gonna cost. So
Well, and I think of the well collapse when I was first mayor and that, that was a question asked by the news media that was following around, how are you gonna pay for this? And I said, I'm gonna worry about it after we're done,
Yeah.
and now we've got to kind of,
So you'd have.
we
to
can
call
figure out what the expenses are, but before we can pay them, then we'll have to make an appropriation to cover it.
But would you have to call an emergency commission meeting and then just put it on there?
We could, depends on the circumstances, we wouldn't have to. What I'm saying is that we just have to make sure on our agenda that contingency transfers before we pay for the bills.
Okay.
So instead of having the bills on consent here, I'd put them later on the agenda for discussion. We'd get that contingency transfer resolution passed, and then we'd go approve the bills and we'd be fine.
But the other
Great
thing is we aren't gonna have to pay for it while the emergency is happening. It's,
Yeah.
The dollars don't get paid, until after things are kind of settled. So we've got a time frame there. We can address the emergency at the time, It's just that before we make any payments on what occurred because of it, we'll do the transfer first.
Thank you.
Mhm. Other questions? No, very good one, Mike.
Did you want us to acknowledge this in any manner, or?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yes.
So we're not required to have any action, but often cities do take a motion to acknowledge the audit report. I think that would be appropriate here.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion that we acknowledge the 2022 financial audit findings.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 11, discussion and action on possible removal of park equipment on East Center Park. Mike, do you want to address that?
Sure. Thank you. So this was a discussion on the park board, then the October meeting. About the current status that East Center Park, the equipment's probably 50 years old. It's about, what did we figure, 2,400 foot to the next park over to Bachman Park that has the new up.
1750.
Yeah, 1,750 feet.
1,700, yeah.
So there's been some discussion about new new equipment, which is gonna set you back between 75 to 150,000, depending on what you want for equipment and design. It's acceptable to flooding. That's the first place that floods in Madison, so it washes all the wood chips off. Every time the water comes up and the creek comes out of the bank, all the wood chips wash away, so. The park board made the suggestion that they would, just remove the equipment and make it a green space is what they kind of suggested in the meeting, but ultimately it comes to the commission's decision of what they want to move forward with the East Center Park.
The other thing, and that I'll mention too, is that we have a number of flood buyout lots on, across the road from that. So, even for those who are walking to the park, it's just not right across the street, and they have a distance to go. And so then the question becomes, do we go to this park or do we go to this park, so.
I mean, I don't ever want to lose a park, but on the other hand, is it worth spending $150,000 when one block down and a block to the 2 blocks away, you have one of the most state-of-the-art community playgrounds in the community. So,
I'll emphasize that the current equipment isn't hazardous. I went out there, I did 1 or 2 swings myself, make sure it's working. And, I didn't find anything that would be a danger or anything. But it is, as Mike said, getting to the end of its life. It could use some TLC, maybe some paint. So that's the options that we're bringing here. Is ultimately, we do recommend removing it because there's close park assets in the vicinity. But the other option would be to replace it. We'd have to plan ahead for that, or to refurbish if we wanted to keep it. We don't have any data. I always like having data. I don't have numbers on usage for the park. Only anecdotally, I would say that I haven't heard of a lot of usage there, and whenever I've driven by, I haven't seen anybody using it.
Are there garbage cans there?
Yes.
Is there ever any garbage?
some, but most of it's residential. So, I would say it's at minimal use. I mean, being in the parks, you might see, I don't want to throw numbers out there, but I've probably seen 12 people there this summer. I mean, throughout the summer, so.
Is that an ice rink with it?
Well, there is an ice rink there, yes.
We plan to still use the ice rink?
We don't even use the ice rink anymore. Since the reconstruction of East Center Street, they dug a sewer or a storm sewer across where the ice rink. So it's really hard to make ice. It has to get really cold to make the ice where the storm sewer goes. Storm drain
It's
system.
becoming obsolete.
Yeah,
Piece of ground.
but it's in the floodway. I mean, I like to utilize the floodway properties as much as we can, but on the other hand, do you just want to keep throwing money at something then?
Do we have people on waiting list for the community gardens?
I think we usually have 1 or 2.
There's a few, but not very many. I mean, usually everybody gets a garden plot, mostly. I mean, there might be 1 or 2 that miss out, but.
I think typically the ones that maybe aren't getting the garden spots are ones that already have 1 or 2 spots.
Yes,
Maybe
correct.
they would want more.
Maybe if we had one on the east side of town.
Sure.
Or on the west side of town.
Yeah.
And that's an option. I mean.
We have water there.
Yeah, there is a water main, meter pit and everything on the east. It'd be on the south side of Center Street.
Probably have to be if we're gonna flood it for right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it'd be nice to have something there. I mean,
Good idea.
I guess my opinion on this would be, we table it, encourage some community feedback on it, and revisit it next meeting.
Is it an all or nothing? Remove all the equipment, or, I mean,
Well, there's not that many pieces of equipment really there. There's a jungle bar and, teeter tot set, a swing set, and then a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's fairly old equipment. I don't think we could ever move it to a different place because I'm sure every piece has got a Volkswagen sized concrete on the bottom of it too, so. But I hate to see a park go, but we're gonna gain a couple in the near future, the way it sounds too, so, in different areas.
I kind of like Kelly's idea on that, because this may not, may not be something people have really heard, and so I think, we could table it for 2 weeks and that to the next meeting, and that give the public time and see what kind of input we have, and
Yeah.
can we
kind of go from there.
post something on the website about it? and-
Yeah,
and take some feedback and, see what we get, and if we get nothing, then we know where we stand, I guess.
yeah.
I do like the community garden idea, that space. but it would be nice to know what people want there, so.
And I mean, I'm sure some people aren't gonna be happy about losing their neighbor park, you know, so I mean, I understand them concerns too, so.
Well, it's gonna go eventually someday, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, insurance benefits could pull the plug probably on a couple pieces of equipment right now, just because of the age and style of it, so. They haven't, but I'm waiting for the phone call from the insurance company, so.
If we're gonna notify the public of this, would it be beneficial to give them options of things we're considering to put there? You know, a caveat. We're looking at putting community garden or XYZ.
Yeah, I think if anybody reaches out, I open up that conversation, ask if they have any ideas. And I could say one thing that was brought up was more community gardens to get them on, spread around town a little bit and do they think. But does any of that?
It's good, I mean, it's not gonna hurt us, any.
Kelly, would you like to make that as a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we table action on the possible removal of park equipment. Encouraging community feedback. This over the next couple weeks.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thanks, Mike.
No.
Yeah. Number 12, consider award of bid 963, furnished pad mount transformers. And Jameson, you want to address that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this bid is for a couple different, this bid has two bids in it, I'll put it that way. One is for single phase transformers and box pads, and then the second is for three phase transformers and box pads. In both cases, the low bidder was Resco. And so their base bid on the first part is $120,717.48. That's for the single phase equipment. And then the three phase, their bid was $330,995.72. This is good pricing. We were happy to see that they put some bids in at this amount. The estimate was around $600,000 is what our engineers are thinking it would cost. And this in total between the two is
450,
yeah, thank you.
460.
Yeah, so
450.
well under that 600,000. So staff recommend award.
Questions or comments?
We quite frequently see the incomplete bids. Are we getting back, or is the DGR getting back to the bidders, and do they understand why they're being disqualified, or how do we handle that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And when we move into the next bid, that probably be a question you ask again, because with that bid, we had a lot of issues with the submissions. In this particular one, I don't have that information. I'd have to talk to DGR or to our electric staff to see what it was about this bid that was incomplete. Yeah, I would say that all these manufacturers and these suppliers, they're not unfamiliar with the bid processes, so
Right.
it is surprising when they come in incomplete, but yeah, I'd have to look more information on this one.
Other questions? No other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve bid number 963, the furnished pad mount transformers to Resco for the amount of the $504,000. Is that what the total came to?
Yeah, we'll just, say accepting those low bids.
Low bids.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 13, consider award bid 964 on the Armory Roof Project. And again, Jameson, I'll ask you to address that.
This is a real fun one, so I'm gonna turn it over to Ryan.
Okay, sounds good.
So the bids were open for the Armory Roof project on Tuesday, October 22nd. On the bid tabulation, there are 6 bidders, and the bids range from $191,555 up to $246,365. Estimate for this project was in the range of $205,000 to $210,000. We did have a seventh bidder. That bidder did not submit the bid on appropriate documents, so we weren't able to consider that bid. They were quite a bit lower than our lowest bid to consider, so I don't know if you want to take that into consideration, but Dawson Incorporated out of Sioux Falls is the lowest bidder. I've discussed the bid with Dawson and they're comfortable with their bid. Jameson had mentioned some irregularities in this bid process and one was on the Dawson bid. They had listed a different number on part of their bid form, and then they listed the 191,555 in another. I talked to Attorney Jenks about that, and he said that that was an irregularity we could waive. It was clear that they intended on bidding that amount. And then on J&P Roofing Systems, they had done a math error, and there's a slight difference there. I'll also point out that another contractor, separate from any of those that I've talked to, submitted a bid, but they didn't certify their bid. And I mean, their bid was complete, but they forgot to certify the bid. So we had a number of issues on this bidding process. Oh, and then the last one, you'll see Advanced Roofing Solutions excluded a couple components from their bid. So that would have been something that we wouldn't have been able to consider. They are the highest bidder, but bids were odd with this. So with that, we'd recommend awarding the low bid to Dawson Inc. at 191,550.
Ryan, can you give a quick background on what the work is on the roof here?
Yeah, so it's removing the existing roof from the armory, placing some of the wood deck. That quantity won't be known until they get up there and remove the existing one. And then there's some tuck pointing that needs to happen on the parapet wall, some plywood lining at that parapet wall, and then they'll put some insulation and then an EPDM roof system. And that roof system is what's been recommended to us. We've reached out to roofing contractors, and Mike can kind of speak to that too. That seems to be a very durable, long-lasting roof system. So that's what's been recommended.
What is the life expectancy of it?
You know what that is?
I think that most of these contractors, I don't know, I didn't read the fine print on their bids, but a lot of them are a 10-year warranty. Minus 90-mile-an-hour winds or something, you know, if you have a big wind event. I think that I've been here 12 years and I know the roof hasn't been replaced. It's been patched and patched and patched and so I'm guessing the roof's 25 to 30 years old that it's on the roof. I think the previous contractor that did it was Keever Roofing, but they don't tackle jobs this big anymore. Them guys don't. They're just small roofing jobs now. So
Ryan, can you kind of speak towards Dre's question on the last item? Is there something that we could be doing better to make sure these bids get submitted correctly?
In the case of the contractor that submitted a completely incomplete bid, I talked to them and they said that they had downloaded the documents from the Sioux Falls Builders Exchange. So that's worrisome. That shouldn't happen. The exchanges should provide the correct documents, and apparently they didn't. Other than that, you know, I did have a lot of questions from contractors leading up to this because they're not used to seeing those bid documents. So we use EJCDC documents, a lot of builders and such like that. They're used to seeing AIA documents. So these are a little foreign to them. And I think it gets a little confusing. Like that leads to part of the problems, but
What's the difference between the documents we use and the ones that they downloaded from Sioux Falls? I mean,
so when they downloaded the documents from Sioux Falls, they had gotten a plan sheet and an estimate of quantities and a narrative on the project. And that's all that they had received. They said that we didn't receive the actual bid document. So when they submitted their bid, they just did that on a letter with their company letterhead on the top.
now, I guess my question is that if other cities are using something a little different, is there any reason why we couldn't accept documents like Sioux Falls uses as well as ours, or?
So like you'd need to adopt those, so you have to have, I guess, permission, if you will, to utilize AIA documents, you have to buy those documents. And then you're allowed to modify those, but you'd have to purchase those, and it just doesn't come up enough, typically our projects are, more appropriate for the EJCDC documents. That's what Banner uses, that's what all the engineering companies use. KLJ uses that at the airport. It's just when you delve into the architectural side of the building side that this comes up.
I'll note, so there's no confusion with the public either, the Sioux Falls, the exchange that Ryan referenced, that's nothing to do with the city of Sioux Falls. That's
Correct,
just the
no,
exchange in Sioux Falls, and we provided them with the correct documents, and
yes,
for
that's right.
whatever reason, when somebody pulled the documents from their exchange, they weren't complete.
But one more thing, there was 7 bidders and 6 of them got the right paperwork. Yes.
Yeah, and they
So-
acknowledged that too, so they said, well, we're not sure what happened because. Yeah, and I don't know where the 6 bidders who bid it got their document, they may have downloaded them directly from the website, that's kind of where we were directing people. But then we also send to the exchanges to try to cover more ground.
No, very good. Questions or comments? The one thing I'll say on that is, hopefully enough they can get to it soon before the next heavy rains, because the water's going clear down through the basement.
If either you want to speak towards the planned timeline on this?
So the project completion date is in January. We told them that they need to get that work done right away with the completion in January. This type of roof, you are able to put it down in cold weather as long as it's not wet. So if we get a large amount of snowfall or something in November and they're not able to get the roof down, that would be the only scenario where I see this not getting completed.
Any other questions? Comments? Not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to award bid number 964, the Armory Roof Project to Dawson Inc. in the amount of $191,555.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
I just want to say one thing. I want to thank Ryan because his department put the bid packet together and answered a ton of the questions and stuff, and it made it a heck of a lot easier for me to have them doing it than me doing it. So I appreciate the engineers department doing that.
From the American Legion, they'll appreciate it being done soon because they had a lot of damage done. So, all right, motion carries. Number 14, award sale of 1983 Chevrolet C60 pumper truck to Mike Gertis, Gertis Fabricating Incorporated of Black River Falls, Wisconsin, through Purple Wave for $3,100. Jameson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll note for this item as well as all the change orders, if you guys just want to make motions to approve item number 14 or whatever, you certainly can, because I know these get to be lengthy titles. For number 14, this is pretty straightforward. This is an old fire truck that has not been used in some time, and we would like to surplus, and we sold it through Purple Wave, and the high bidder was Mike Gertis for $3,100. We recommend awarding that sale.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 15, authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1, water system improvements, segment 2, to Asphalt Surfacing Company. Again, Jameson or Ryan, do you want to address that?
Right.
Sure. So this would be, segment 2 is the North Union Avenue project from 5th to 9th Street. This change order 1 kind of catches up on 4 items. As part of the phasing plan for the project, we wanted to provide appropriate parking space for residents up there so that they didn't have to walk so far. So we had put in a temporary parking area. That contract increase was $1,345.50. There was an inlet structure on Northwest 8th Street that was modified due to some grade changes. We thought by doing the grade changes that they'd be able to facilitate the drainage a little bit better. That structure there was not in great shape on the top anyway. And so that was a contract increase of $4,000. There was a casting over the storm sewer box at that same intersection, And for the same reasons, there was an increase in the drop curb style frame. For the storm sewer, that was $1,300. And the project required accommodation for temporary mailboxes. The mail delivery wasn't able to happen. They required the mailboxes to be refurbished and reset. So that included one mailbox and two multiple mailboxes. That contract increase was $1,450. Total change order is $8,095.50.
Questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve item number 15.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 16, authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1, Park Creek Walls Improvements Site 1, Kesselwood Excavation and Dirt Work Services. And again, Ryan, will you want to address that one?
This change order amounts to 310 additional square feet of sheet pile that was installed. This is an additional quantity of bid material at the bid unit price of $273 per square foot. Total is $84,630. Again, the federal government pays 75% of this, the state 10%, and the local amount is 15%. This was required. We required the contractor to produce a wall system to meet the design parameters in the bid documents. Kesselwood's subcontractor, which is Sioux Falls Civil Construction, hired SJL engineers to determine the sheet pile embedment dimensions, and this additional quantity is due to that.
It's a better finished product.
Yeah, just it protects from scour and it's all based on soil type and scour protection.
Other questions, comments? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 16.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 17, authorize the mayor to sign change order number 2, Park Creek Walls Improvement Site 3, Kesselwood Excavation and Dirt Work Services. Again, Ryan, would you like to address this one?
Sure. So this is the same situation as the prior change order on site 1. But this is a larger area and included additional square feet of 661 additional square feet of sheet pile at that $273 a square foot. So this total is $180,453.
Questions, comments? If not, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve item number 17.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 18, authorize the mayor to sign change order number 3, Park Creek Walls Improvements Site 3, Kesselwood Excavation and Dirt Work Services.
This one is a price increase to cast a structure and upsize pipe size. So it was identified in the plans that it was an 8-inch storm sewer line. It's actually a 10-inch, and so there was a little bit of upsizing in cost and upsizing in labor. And so the total cost of that work, materials and labor, is $3,441.61. This also includes lowering a power cable due to conflict with the riprap. And then we installed some temporary construction fence around the salvage rock pile in Memorial Park. There was some concern for kids climbing on that pile, and so we put a fence around that. So the total cost of the change order with those 3 components is $3,441.61.
Questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve number 18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 19, authorize the mayor to sign change order 1F 2024 Multi-Community Asphalt Surface Treatment to Asphalt Surface Technologies Corporation. And again, I'll ask Ryan if he'll follow up on this one.
Yeah, so this one's very simple. This change order is simply reflecting the final quantities that were installed. This is a decrease of $29,739.70.
Questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve item number 19.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 20, authorize the mayor to sign change order number 11, Northwest 9th Street, Union Avenue reconstruction with Winter Contracting Incorporated. Ryan, you want to address this one as well?
Yeah, so this change order is a bunch of various miscellaneous items on the project. They came about due to necessary field modifications during construction. As you're aware, Houston Engineering did the initial design, and then there was quite a bit of redesign during the project, both at city staff request and by recommendation of Banner Associates. So this consists of an inlet and grading in a park area. They needed to install some wall extensions on a storm sewer inlet, removal and replacement of sanitary sewer manhole with a different base section. Both of those two items were due to elevation difference and some modification to the roadway design, and then providing temporary mailboxes and refurbishing permanent mailboxes. So we're really just kind of catching up on a lot of things that we've been working on through the project. And now that it's come to an end, it's just time to rectify all those. Total amount is $33,670.
Questions or comments?
A lot of red lines on those. What, dates, pricing?
Yep. So we had went back and, the initial cost estimates we thought were quite high. And so we had negotiated and asked the contractor if they could sharpen their pencil a little bit. And, they were able to do some modification to it and work with us a little bit, but, yeah, we had quite a bit of back and forth. And feel like we got down to a reasonable price.
Other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve item 20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Number 21, approve the extension of the city hall redevelopment request for proposals. Jameson, do you want to address this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you remember, a few meetings ago, we had action to create an RFP process for soliciting bids to redevelop the building we're in here currently. That deadline was last Friday, the 1st, and we didn't receive any submissions. However, I have had some inquiries over the last week or so from some folks that are interested in learning more about the building. And so at this point in time, since we don't have any other alternative ideas for the building, I would like to basically extend the current RFP process or create a new one that doesn't have a deadline in place so we can take bids on a rolling basis. And once we find a proposal that is something that excites us or that's satisfactory to us, we'd be able to work with them and move forward. So this document that was in the agenda is the same one that was created before. The only changes is removing those deadlines and letting people submit them on a rolling basis. Stand by for questions.
Questions or comments?
When will this building be
Available?
Yes.
I'd say as far as a new development opportunity, it'd be available as soon as we could find somebody, if there was somebody, because that'll take some time to work through what their plans would be. So that wouldn't hold them up at all. On our end, we are planning on moving to the new building in December, and we'll move all the essential things out right away. There might be other old files and stuff that'll take a little bit longer time to follow us over. But I would say there's nothing that is going to be in this building that we couldn't move quicker if needed. And as far as when it's being closed to the public, once we move over to the new building, we would be closing this one. And I will elaborate on a little bit during the city updates, next item.
So go ahead. No, I was gonna say other questions or comments.
Do we winterize this building or what's our plan?
Yeah, we know we want to get better locks on it, because right now it is open 24/7. But without staff being here, without the police having their station here, there being a physical presence, we don't want this facility to be open at all hours of the night. So we'd be looking at making sure that the doors and locks are updated and secure. As far as winterizing, I think we'll still need to heat it to a point where we're not gonna have any facility issues. It'll probably be cooler than we generally do, but we're gonna wanna keep it to a point where nothing's freezing over.
Do we
Does
have,
that answer your question?
do we have the exercise department still upstairs?
Yeah, the community center is going to be, or has been communicating with their members that use the fitness studio upstairs, and that's something that's been going on.
Other questions? Okay, do we have a motion to eliminate the deadline date on the current City Hall redevelopment RFP?
Motion to approve extension of City Hall redevelopment RFP.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, number 22, November city updates. Again, Jameson, you want to address this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we'll run right into this, and that's a nice segue to what we're calling the big move. So our construction deadline on the new building is November 26th, and that should be met handily. There'll be furnishing that occurs by Canfield, the provider we selected, both before and then after that November 26th date. So the date that we've set for moving day is Monday, December 9th, Tuesday, December 10th. Those 2 days, our city offices here in this building will be closed to the public. Our public works and utility staff, they'll still be open and addressing calls as needed, but this building will be closed. And then on December 11th, that Wednesday, the new building on South Highland will be open to the public, and services will resume there. There will be, of course, some moving that can occur as possible, both before and after those days. But as far as what the public needs to be aware of, it's those 2 days of closure. Any questions on that?
The one question that I would have is if there's someone that has utility bills or something that happens to be due on the Friday before, or during the time period, that Monday and Tuesday and that, do we have any conflicts in that there where people would be concerned?
No, we don't. We
Very
coordinated around any type of shutoffs or billing issues.
Very good.
So we're getting excited, it's getting close. For our commission meetings, we'll have probably 2 more meetings here after today, and then the plan would be, as long as everything goes smoothly, that second meeting in December, we start meeting in the new building. Okay, moving on to the next slide. We have, as it's the time of year, we've completed a lot of projects, and so we're happy to check off many of the large projects that we've worked on this year and that the public has endured at times if you're living in those areas, but also I'm hoping been excited to see completed. So that would be segments 1, 2, 3, and 5A. 5A does need some seating left, but otherwise that one's finished with the rest of them. And then our public works building restoration is complete. And then our RD projects, we're on our list. We've kind of had those complete for a while now, but officially checking them off now. And then the sewer relining is similar. That's also been done for a while, but we hadn't checked that off our list here. And then I think last meeting, we did note that the lead and copper inventory had been completed too. So on those construction ones, kind of those first 4 or 5, there are punch list items that still need to be done on those. And there's warranty items so that if there's issues that come up a year down the road, it's still covered under warranty or some seating type stuff. But these are projects we are checking off of our list that we keep track of for these updates. And so we'll slide into the next slide. And you can see all those being crossed off there. And a lot of the ones that are left are either projects that we're still working on, similar construction projects, or are ongoing ones that we foresee will always be on this list. Any questions on the things we're crossing off?
Nice to have a fall going into winter without a street tore up.
Absolutely, yep, and I'll want to give a shout out to Ryan and to all the folks in his office. They work very hard this year to make sure that these projects, that the contractors have everything they need to finish on time. And at times, maybe that's nudging them along, and other times that's just working quickly to partner with them. But a big shout out to Ryan, his staff and engineering.
James, what's the city park, those 2 bathrooms, what's not done on those?
Yeah, I'm hoping that that's something that we can cross off next month. Ryan,
Yeah.
Ryan, can you speak to the bathroom?
Sure. Yeah, so we actually discussed that with the contractor today and they, it's just fixtures. It's just getting a couple fixtures and those should be here this week and then they'd be able to open them up. So they're, for all intents and purposes, pretty much finished.
It's gonna, it looked like they were done,
Yeah.
I drive by every day.
Yeah.
And then the question will be is when will they open? Not till next spring? For public use.
I anticipate they'll be able to open right away.
Okay,
That'd be my
They're
assumption
heated.
as well. I wish that Mike was still here to confirm that.
They're heated and everything, so.
Oh, so they're year
Okay.
round.
Yep, they are.
okay,
Well, it's nice that they're skating rinks right there.
Mhm.
okay.
Yep.
Very nice.
Okay, we'll move into the creek walls repair. So we haven't quite crossed these off our list yet, but we've made some good progress. So site 1, you had a change order for that tonight. That one is pretty much wrapped up, so we just have to do some of the closeout, and we expect the financial reimbursement from FEMA to be occurring soon. So that'll, again, we're responsible for 15%, so the other 85% will be covered by the federal and state governments. Site 2 was more recently bid out than 1 and 3, and so that one hasn't started yet. That work is likely to begin in spring 2025, depending on the weather this fall. Possibly might get some stuff started this year, but it's not going to be finished anytime soon because it might not start this spring either. And then site 3, progress is continuing there. There had to be some rework done on the channel and the shaping of that, as you remember from past meetings, but they've made good progress and we're expecting there's about a month left of work before completion on that site will be done as well. Other projects to note, the industrial park. So this is a city project, but the LIC has really taken the helm on this one. That is paved, it's marked substantially complete, so it's wrapping up very nicely. The road's nice and smooth. I think it's open up. You can take a drive up it yourself. And then segment 4, this is another SRF project that is not a full street reconstruction like many residents are used to through town, but this is a water loop line that goes around our industrial park. And so that's all done through boring the water mains, and that is happening now. It's going to progress as long as the weather allows it to, and then whatever work is left will be completed next year. The sidewalk projects, so we had the same contractor for both last year's project and then this year's project. Last year, they didn't get the 23 stuff done at all, which was disappointing to us, but they said they'd come right away this year and do it, and they have completed the 2023 sidewalk project. There's still some time for them to work on the 24 project, but we're disappointed to say that they haven't started that yet. We're watching that closely, and if this is a project that doesn't get done again this year, I think we'd look more closely at them if there's a little bit in the future, because we don't like having these projects finished a year late. When we are working with the residents and asking them to get their portion done by a certain time, and then we complete what isn't done, and then we aren't getting it done the schedule that we say it is. That's something that we're not happy with, and we want to keep a close eye on.
What percentage, Ryan, are we at now? Would you say in the city?
On the
Sidewalk.
2024 stuff?
Oh,
Just
just
as a
for
whole?
all?
Probably completed. At least 80%, 80 to 85%, I would say.
That's what I was saying the other day.
How long to get that last 15? Are we projecting? Is it 3 years, 5 years?
Yeah. As it often goes when you have a long project like that, I mean, you do the areas of town around the schools and around the swimming pools and stuff like that, and then you kind of work your way out. And we're down to those areas now that are like the difficult areas, the areas where everyone was like, oh boy, let's just put that one off. So these are gonna be extremely difficult projects. They're probably going to include some retaining walls. I'm gonna say it's gonna probably at least 6-7 years, I suppose.
Yes, we budget roughly a similar amount each year.
Yeah.
And more complicated projects, even at the smaller area,
Yeah.
the cost goes up, so
Mhm.
unless we want to dedicate more resources.
Right.
But we're making progress.
Thank you. A lot of progress has been made since Royce started. So he's looking down on it pretty pleased right now.
All right, so, back to, the new city administration building. Recent work there is the second lift in the asphalt out in the parking and the driving areas was completed. The first floor had the flooring installed and then the terrazzo flooring was also polished up. Elevator startup's been completed. And then, on some of the components the city is responsible for, we've had the initial startup on the access controls, security cameras, audio visual. Those will be continuing as well over the next month. And then on the contractor side, they're largely moving towards identifying whatever punch list items there may be and addressing those to get them cleaned up. And then final cleaning of the building and any other preparations. And we're getting meetings scheduled to have training for our staff as they're taking over responsibility for the building, so they know how all the systems, controls, works, everything from the HVAC to the electrical to the door access. So we are nearing the end. Okay. And then we have lots of fun events. So last week we had another city circle, and I think it's fair to say this was the most successful one that we've had. I'm really happy to see great participation. Thank you to Mayor Lindsay and Commissioner Sarah for joining me for this event. We did up at the community center, and one of the thoughts there was that we get out to the places where people happen to be, and maybe we'll snag some of them as they're coming through to use the facility. And I think that definitely was the case for a few, but I was very happy to say that a number of the people came to the building just to attend our event. So I think we're starting to get the word out there, and it's catching on. And we had great conversations over a lot of topics. So thanks to the public, and thanks to those of you here who were attending that.
The nice thing about it was we had a couple of people that said, no, we just came to see, what was going on. And as other people talked, then they came up with questions, and so it was very nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good discussions.
It was very nice.
Other events over the last month, the library is always very busy, so they had the story walk ribbon cutting, and so that's been a project between the library, the Parks Department, and Kiwanis, and then they also had the preschools there who celebrated the story walk. And so that is now open in the library park there. And then the library also had their first use of the Marjorie Haskins gift. So the Marjorie Haskins had donated a large sum of money a couple years ago, and some of it was to be used for honoring classical music. And so they're able to honor those wishes with having some of the money go towards the South Dakota Symphony Wind Quintet. And then also keeping in line with the library, they were able to benefit from some of the spoils of their gardens over the last year. So they had some gardens that the kids were taking in, and they had an audience who were there now for this event talking about how to enjoy those fruits and vegetables from the, probably gonna butcher this, but I think it's vegetation experts. I'm gonna go with it. And then the other event here is multi-language story time. So of course they have lots of story time at the library, and here's one where they tried with some different languages. And this gave an opportunity for new English readers to practice their English to a new audience. And then the preschool audience was also, some of them were also learning English, were able to hear new languages too. So great event there. And then I think this is the last past event is a career fair that was at the high school about a month ago. And I'm very happy to say that we had a large number of departments and staff who were eager to participate there. And I heard that the event went very well, and that we had a lot of kids at the table learning about the different city departments and what it is to be a city worker. Looking ahead, our next city circle is November 14th. We're still finalizing that location. That's gonna be from 5:30 to 7:30, and I believe that's with the mayor and Adam. Are you on that one? Yep. We're getting around to everybody. Also two other events, the history of LEFSA. Roger and Nancy Moose will be educating the public at the library on November 14th at 6:30. And then a paleontologist or dinosaur event here for a family friendly event on November 18th, 5:30, 6:30, again at the library. And other upcoming events, the library is doing a book bracket. So they picked out a number of books, and they're having people vote on what the best books are between those pairs, and we'll see who comes out to be the winner of the best book. And they've also worked into Hoopla, which is a digital resource for library members to access ebooks, comics, music, and more. Phew, lots of great events. Any questions?
This is a little bit, is there any updates on the RUS, where that's at?
Sure, the restricted use site, so we had submitted our permit application to the state quite some time ago, and that was, DANR made a recommendation to award that permit, and then, sort of, adjoining property owners out there who were concerned about the site appealed it. And that is kind of an unusual thing for, this particular type of application. And so, the city, legal team is working through that process. They are scheduling hearings and gathering information to ultimately have that hearing to determine whether or not the city will get that permit application. City staff, myself, I remain very confident that we will receive the permit application. We feel we've met all requirements from the application, just like every other restricted use site in the state does. But it is taking longer than any of us would like. So as for now, our current restricted use site is closed to the public. And we hope that we are able to move it, get into the new site as soon as possible. If we get the award, I guess award is the right word, permit award, sometime over this winter, we would love to hire somebody and start breaking ground right away this spring to dig a new hole. The old hole would be capped off and closed up, and then we can open those services back up to the public. Until then, the public is encouraged to go to Brookings or Sioux Falls, and to the communication that we put out, that included the addresses and the contact information for those landfill or restricted use site facilities.
The department that's reviewing it, I guess we could see, we may not hear an answer for a couple of months yet.
Yeah, the hearing date's not yet set.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Discussion on rescheduling next quarterly planning meeting scheduled for December 9th.
So I put this one last because I want to get through the updates talking about our plans for the big move. So with us being closed on the 9th and 10th, our next city commission quarterly meeting was planned for that Monday, the 9th. We can certainly keep it and work around it, or we can reschedule. And I just want to have a discussion over what you guys would like to see us do with that meeting.
I think we should reschedule it.
At the time, I think we should reschedule it.
Yeah.
I think staff appreciate that.
I'm actually gonna be on that day too,
I
so.
agree as well, so.
So that's the second Monday. The Monday before and the Monday after we have regular meetings at. So we could either double up, or we could find a different date. It could be a Tuesday or whatever the case is, or whatever you guys are looking for that meeting. Any ideas?
I'm open to what the commissioners want to do. Yeah.
Makes no difference to me. I'm pretty open. We can double up as far as I'm
Yeah, I'm
concerned.
fine with that.
I would be fine doubling up. I mean, it makes no
Do it on the
difference.
16th.
Yeah, I mean, let me see. Yeah, I'll talk to staff. So we'll figure out what our 3 topics will be. Make sure we're available, and we'd either look at the first or the third Monday, either of our meetings for that quarterly meeting. That works for me. We'll let you know. Any topics that you want to cover while I've got you here? You think of it, you can just drop
I guess
an
one of the
email
things I would say is, bring us up to date on, where things are and how things are working in the new facility.
Sure.
Because by then, we'll have our departments where they are and.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, we'll have probably a lot of new information to share in general about the goings on that new building, so that could be a good topic. If anybody else has any other ideas, feel free to just drop me an email.
I think we should have a potluck.
We have the kitchen.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
do we, I assume we don't have any public comment
No,
in that, so. Next regular commission meeting will be Monday, November 18th, 2024, right here where we are currently. Board openings, we have 2 3-year terms on the Community Center Advisory Committee, starting in January 2025. And so anyone who's interested in that, contact City Hall and, we'll take it from there. And then remember, tomorrow is election day, so remember to vote. And at this point in time do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, we are moving into executive session. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Okay, good night.
yeah.